Hello, my name is Amit Pitaru. I want to show you a project I'm working on that allows us to take Create.js canvas projects. Create.js is a great library by Grant Skinner and friends for graphics programming and creative programming in Canvas. I'd love to be able to take these projects and then run them natively as native code in iOS with as little hassle as possible. Here's one such project. I went and grabbed a Creative.js project from the PressTube repo. James Patterson, PressTube, is doing these awesome code journals where he talks about how he as an artist makes his work possible using Create.js and JavaScript and coding in general. And so I went to the PressTube repo and I grabbed Globo, which is this funny thing. And it's a simple example, but it's also cool because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of graphics on the screen, but also pixel perfect hit testing, picking. And so we would like to be able to run this natively on iOS at like kind of 60 frames per second and snappy interaction without having to change a lot of code or rewriting it in Objective-C or C++. The thing that makes this happen, the thing that kind of like sparked this possibility is another library called Ejecta by Dominic from Phobos Lab. Now, Dominic is also creating a JavaScript library called Impact.js, which is specifically great for gaming. And what he did is he created Ejecta to allow the users of Impact.js to run their code natively. And he was kind enough to open source the thing so we could also try to make it compatible with other libraries. So that's very kind of him. And what I've tried to do is to take the Ejecta library from Dominic and write a little patch, which is the beginning of making Create.js compatible with Ejecta. So let me show you how it works. The main ingredients, we first of all need to download Ejecta from the repo, and I always suggest grabbing the latest version of Ejecta from the Phobos Lab GitHub repo. And so there's an Xcode project here. You can also go and download the patch files from my repo, and then here's Globo, which is available on PressTube. That's the index file. That's the spinning robot that we just looked at. So I'm going to start by opening an Xcode project, the Ejecta Xcode project, and this opens up. And the first thing we need to do is add some files here. And so I'm going to right click and say add files to Ejecta. And I'm going to go and grab the Globo app over here. So here it is. Here's the Globo app. James has the code already sitting in an app folder. If you don't, then you need to set up this structure as well, which is pretty straightforward. Just put your code in a folder named app. And then the next thing we need is the libs folder from my patch repo. So I'm going to add that. And so no files were actually copied anywhere. Everything is where it was before, but now Xcode is aware and is going to include these files in the project. So the libs folder has the basic easel code. As I said, easel.js and tween.js are implemented. I'm almost done with implementing easel, but there's more work to be done. And of course, then we can do sound.js and get the whole suite working. And here's the patch file that sort of connects Create.js and Ejecta. And here's James's app. So we have an index.html, which we saw running, and there's his source code. Now Ejecta is looking for a file called index.js, sort of the equivalent of index.html. So we need to create this sort of connection, kind of connect the wires using this file, and that is the only extra step that hopefully we'll need to take. And I've added an index template for you guys in my repo, and all we have to do is go in here and add it into app. So we just put it alongside index.html. Let's just change the name. We'll go back into Xcode, and in the same way that index.html works, we're gonna write some code here to very quickly get the project running. So I'm just making sure this runs on the iPhone 6 simulator. You can change it to different sizes, the iPad and whatnot, or you can just leave it empty and then it will resize automatically. Here we are using Ejecta require. It's kind of like the require.js, not exactly, but similar vein, to load some of our libraries. And here's where we add the Globo code. So I'm just giving you a bit of an example here, but we're going to add the same files that James has. And so I think James has underscore.js, right? Let's see here, underscore.js and globo.js. And so this is sort of simulating that script tag. So I think it was C, and then the other one was source globo.js. Lastly, James is running init on load. So we're just gonna, sometimes you don't really need this, you can just run it straight in your app, but if you want to initialize it sequentially, then this is the way to do it. I'm gonna save this guy, and if everything runs well, it's going to work. This is actually a JavaScript console down here, so we get to see the stuff loading. Oh, here it is. So there we go. It actually runs a little slower in the simulator than it would run on the device, which is interesting, but you get that pixel perfect picking, and it loads well in sequence, and all of that runs. So that's pretty cool. Here we go. So there we have it. I like this very much because I do a lot of prototyping for iOS, and I like the idea of prototyping in Canvas, JavaScript, very, very agile. But then I need to test it on the device as well at some point. So being able to just drag the project in and quickly test it is awesome. And also, there are some projects using Ejecta in the App Store now. So I think we can take this all the way to development. So I'm very excited. Hope you can join me in making the entire Create.js suite compatible with Ejecta. Thank you both to Grant and to Dominic for making this possible. And of course to James for allowing us to use Globo. Cheers.